In the ancient epochs, long before the earth was ever defined by mankind, there lived a creature that carried the ultimate gentleness within the most majestic of exteriors. It possessed the most astonishingly massive frill in all of life's history, resembling a lofty, ancient stone wall standing atop its head, radiating a cold yet steady aura of defense. Yet, this anatomical structure, which almost armed itself to the absolute peak and seemingly implied a strong territorial presence, dissolved into the most incredible paradox of destiny at midnight. Tonight, beside the gently flickering hearth, let us journey into its true life through this story that requires no effort to remember. Its name was Chasmosaurus. In the starry compendium of the late Cretaceous, it was never a ruthless protagonist that dominated through speed or bloody slaughter. As the curtain of night fully drapes the world, it stands silently at the edge of a wide, sheltered coniferous forest, beneath its feet a bed of soft moss several inches thick. The moonlight pours down like water, precisely projecting upon its vast and flat frill, tracing the ancient growth ring textures on its horn-like surface with exceptional clarity. Just at this moment, a gentle breeze rustles through the woods, the weak, tiny insects of the forest, feeling the chill of the night wind, instinctively begin to gather toward this natural harbor. Their petite frames nestle within the flat shadow of the frill, some even finding the warmest sanctuary within the crevices of its heavy scales, treating this place as a midnight haven. Devoid of any predator's roar or companion's panic, there is only its rock-solid body, bringing an unparalleled sense of security to the entire night amidst the breeze. Its long, deep respiration rises and falls rhythmically in the silent jungle, so low that it seems to merge with the very pulse of the earth, compelling anyone who hears it to slow their own breath. On this quiet night, nothing needs to be rushed, much like this primeval behemoth transformed into a forest harbor beneath the starry sky. In the very beginning, fate did not arrange any easy evolutionary path for the Chasmosaurus. Instead, it assigned a lifelong thesis named heaviness. It was born in the latest stage of the Cretaceous period on the North American barrens, a ruthless end-world when the ecosystem was strained to its absolute limit, ready to unleash catastrophic upheavals at any moment. As one of the most iconic representatives of the ceratopsian family, the skeletal structure of the Chasmosaurus appeared exceptionally idiosyncratic in a surface world that chased speed and agility. Its head became extraordinarily heavy due to that colossal frill, which meant that its neck bones and muscles endured an overloaded tension against gravity from the very moment of its birth. Consequently, its entire life could never know a full sprint like those lightweight predators. It could only tread with steady, even somewhat clumsy steps, nudging slowly across the mud. Each time it lifted a foot, it had to coordinate the strength of its entire body to maintain balance, this ultimate slowness becoming the first fracture propelling its destiny to shift. While its peers locked themselves in ceaseless wandering and slaughter for the scarce pastures of the surface, ultimately exhausting the splendor of their lives in attrition, it learned to step back. It withdrew from that frenzied race of speed and glory in its youth, wandering solitarily to the deepest, most inconspicuous, and peaceful edge of the jungle. It sloped its massive frill down onto the low bushes, allowing the daytime sun to bake it thoroughly, warming the horn-like layers and accumulating the gentle heat required for life. This surrender of speed did not turn it into a sacrificial lamb of the era, rather, it endowed it with a noble form of restraint and patient wisdom rarely found among surface creatures. It bore the weight of its frill, and in return, it enjoyed the steady chassis that weight provided. Recognizing its own limitations, its inner soul lived as a waveless, deep ocean. In the long years to come, it would carry this seemingly cumbersome miracle through countless anonymous twilights, treading its own certain and steady cadence. Within this slow-paced life of non-contention, the Chasmosaurus gradually mapped out a deeply humanized logic of power evasion filled with wisdom and restraint. The jungle of the late Cretaceous was a colossal chain woven of desire and blood. Any sluggishness exposed on the open plains could invite devastating fangs. Thus, the Chasmosaurus strictly confined its primary range of activity to the interiors of those tall, dense cycad groves and ancient coniferous forests, seeking its own equilibrium. The soil here was soft and moist, wafting the distinctive mellow fragrance of fallen leaves and plant humus, which brought the finest envelopment and cushion to its massive legs that bore several tons of weight. Its colossal frill, beneath the dim forest shade, transformed into a natural mimetic barrier, making it look exactly like an ancient stone wall fallen from a mountain crag. Whenever a Tyrannosaurus rex or another formidable carnivorous overlord trod with heart-stopping steps past the outer fringes of the jungle, the Chasmosaurus would freeze completely in the deepest shadow of the trees. It anchored its short, thick limbs firmly into the mud, letting its flat frill slice obliquely into the brush, its two gentle eyes maintaining absolute composure in the dark. It remained motionless, even stretching its internal respirations to a mere fraction of its usual rate, allowing the predator's scorching, violent breath to blow past just a few yards away. Those ferocious hunters, accustomed to capturing running dynamics, possessed retinas that never generated the slightest suspicion when sweeping across this motionless stone wall, ultimately departing in frustration. This aesthetic of stillness displayed amidst extreme danger was the most elegant refusal of the Chasmosaurus against that frantic era. It did not contest the chaotic world, yet it lived sublimely detached in the shadows. It unhurriedly chewed those low, succulent ferns, channeling its surplus energy into a long lifespan capable of defying time, leaving not a single shred of haste behind. Each grinding of leaves was accompanied by an exceptionally faint, rhythmic rustling sound echoing within its wide mouth, a sound that became its most habitual healing accompaniment during the long afternoons. As the continental landscape grew increasingly severe due to seasonal droughts, the extreme compression of living space pushed all animals to the brink of collapse. Rivers dried into cracked mud ditches, and once lush shrubberies withered and carbonized under the blistering sun, as panic and aggression spread like a plague through the dinosaur herds. Many herbivores, starved of water for a long time, fell into blind stampedes, forming suffocating, dense formations that charged aimlessly, only to perish in their own chaos. Within this brutal bottleneck of an era, the habit of keeping to its simplicity that the Chasmosaurus had long maintained once again revealed an unparalleled structural survival advantage. It never contested with others for those scarce oasis water sources exposed to the scorching sun, it simply returned to the core depths of the coniferous forest it knew best. The tall conifers wafted a faint aroma carrying the crisp scent of pine resin, a fragrance that possessed a natural calming and soothing effect in the dry air. The Chasmosaurus lay quietly beside a giant, flat rock, its even frill slanting perfectly across the crag's crevice, forming a flawless corner sheltered from the wind and sun. It surrendered the entire weight of its body to this earth packed extremely firm by its own feet, maintaining the absolute minimum of energy expenditure through exceptionally slow, deep, low-frequency respirations. Its heartbeat was as slow as counting the hourglass of centuries, each dull thud acting like a tender caress injected into this cracked, anxious land. It was during those coldest dry season midnights, when the surface temperature plummeted and the beasts on the ground shivered in the freezing wind, emitting desperate wails, that it truly transformed into a harbor. That flat frill blocked the bitter night winds pouring down from the north, forming a hidden encampment behind its body where the temperature was several degrees warmer than outside. The weakest, most easily overlooked moths, beetles, and tiny mammals of the forest instinctively began to gather toward this shield of the earth. They nestled quietly around its heavy belly and within the shadow of its vast frill, sharing faint body warmth and feeling that rock-solid stability. The Chasmosaurus perceived the arrival of these minuscule lives, yet it made no gesture of resistance, it merely pressed its body firmer against the ground, propping up an arena of absolute safety for the creatures beneath it. Amidst this cross-species, silently protective embrace filled with spiritual tension, the Chasmosaurus finally welcomed the gentlest and most fated night of its life. It was a specific night when the dry season was drawing to a close, and the scent of the soil reclaiming distant rains could already be faintly caught in the air. The entire Cretaceous sky was as clear as if it had been washed. The brilliant Milky Way resembled a wide ribbon of stars poured across the black velvet curtain, with countless fragments of golden starlight shimmering silently in the void, illuminating the ancient barrens. The Segnosaurus, entering the twilight of its life, trod upon the soft mossy ground with steps even slower and more solemn than ever before, returning to its most cherished habitat. Its joints, weathered by the eons, emitted an exceptionally dull, rhythmic hum as it walked, yet its gaze was as clear as lake water, mirroring the canopy of stars. It slowly lowered its body into the center of a circular clearing closely enveloped by tall ferns, its four massive, pillar-like legs tucked securely against its sides, hugging the earth. As its frame sank, those soft mosses and fallen leaves collapsed layer upon layer beneath it, releasing a continuous succession of faint, crisp, and deeply healing rustling sounds. This sound was exceptionally clear and gentle in the stillness of the midnight, like an old friend whispering a lullaby that spanned hundreds of millions of years of time and space in its ear. The gentle moonlight poured without reservation upon its wall-like frill. That originally cold, hard horn shield actually reflected a soft, jade-like microglow at this second. The night breeze blew silently, weaving through the branches of those conifers, bearing waves of dense, deep pine resin fragrance that thoroughly wrapped the subterranean encampment. A few tiny insects, their entire frames emitting a faint fluorescence, landed softly upon the edge of its vast frill with incredibly light cadences, resembling small night lamps lit in the deep of the night. The Chasmosaurus gently released a breath. 2 dense plumes of warm white mist puffed from its nostrils, condensing into faint cloud silhouettes in the air before slowly dissolving away. At that single second, all the defense, heaviness, and epical survival pressures accumulated over a lifetime were completely released and reconciled within the rustling of the fallen leaves. It knew it had stood upon this world for long enough. Through its own stability, it had propped up secure nights for the lives in this woods. Now, it was time to return all exhaustion to the earth. It adjusted the angle of its jaw slightly, resting itself more comfortably upon the mossy ground, and serenely closed its eyes. From the exact moment the Chasmosaurus closed its eyes completely, the string of destiny that had been taut within its body for countless eras finally welcomed its slowest, warmest landing. Its colossal, rock-solid frame thoroughly merged into this silent soil at this second, becoming an eternal part of this ancient forest. The night breeze began to grow increasingly light and tender, like a pair of magical hands gently caressing every horn-like texture upon its skin, whisking away the final traces of tension. As time drifted silently, more and more tiny forest creatures arrived at its side. They were no longer afraid, simply falling into sweet slumbers beneath its vast frill. Under its protection, this tiny circular clearing became the ultimate dream cradle of the latest Cretaceous period, the safest and most conflict-free sanctuary, insulated from all external cruelty. The respiration of the Chasmosaurus became exceptionally prolonged and faint, each inhalation like listening to the whispers of the earth, and each exhalation passing its inner tranquility to its surroundings. Its heart rate decelerated inch by inch in the dark, from once every few seconds, to once every 10 seconds, until it finally merged seamlessly into the deep pulse of the earth, silent and trackless. In the depths of its consciousness, the slaughter upon the barrens dissolved into nothingness, and those unsettling, burning clouds in the sky cleared away completely, leaving only an endless canopy of serene stars. This choice of life, utilizing massiveness to carry gentleness, and stillness to guard the vulnerable, allowed it to live out the noblest posture in that primordial dawn filled with destructive powers. When hundreds of millions of years of environmental shifts transformed this ancient forest into deep rock walls and fossils, its bones still maintained this stable posture of resting silently upon the mossy ground. That was not the shattered skeleton of a creature that died struggling in despair, but an ancient traveler who had quietly slept for hundreds of millions of years wrapped in ultimate safety and envelopment. It uses its life to tell us that the ultimate meaning of power is never to destroy or conquer anything, but to be able to become the most reliable harbor for others when the storm arrives. Today, that Cretaceous continent which once drove countless primordial behemoths into frenzy and destruction has long since turned into silent rock strata through the vicissitudes of time. Those predatory overlords that once sprinted at full speed under the sun, invincible in their power, have ultimately become cold, cracked, shattered frames inside museums, leaving people to imagine them out of thin air. Yet, when we reopen the memory of the Chasmosaurus on this quiet night, we can still feel that deepest power of serenity traveling across hundreds of millions of years of time and space. That vast frill, once misconstrued as a display of power, eventually turned into the ultimate symbol of gentleness, restraint, and absolute security through the filter of time. It uses the epic of its life to gently tell us that in this volatile world, always hurrying you to run at full speed, always leaving you anxious and terrified, learning to bring yourself to a standstill on a quiet night and transforming into a stable rock to accept the caress of the breeze is a deeper life wisdom. The night wind has completely subsided now. All the clamor, all the disputes, and all the rushing of the outside world have been thickly filtered through the slow flow of this story. Within this warm blanket belonging exclusively to you, there is no longer anything that requires you to grit your teeth and defend, nor is there any unknown tomorrow demanding you to sprint at full speed. Just like that clever Chasmosaurus, draw your breath exceptionally long and slow, letting every exhausted joint relax completely within the soft bedding. The ancient moonlight has pierced through the dust of eons, spilling a sheet of the gentlest silver white at the edge of your dreams, quietly guarding the peace deep within your heart. Listening to the low narration by your ear, and feeling that sleepiness deep within your brain growing heavier and more intense, let your consciousness gently sink alongside the lake-like silence. Sleep now, confidently surrender all the burdens of the day to this all-embracing night, and peacefully drift into the deepest dreamscape under the slow-motion lens of time. Good night, distant and gentle ancient woods, good night, to every kind living being reclaiming its soul in the slow cadence of life.